What is going on, everybody? Welcome to our first ever Box Talk episode where our dynamic training coaches get together, we sit on plyo boxes, and we answer some questions. Today we got Coach Connor in the house.
Yes, sir.
We got Coach Spence in the house.
What's up?
And we got my man, Coach Ben, in the house. Let's get to it. Here we go. All right, question number one. As dynamic training coaches, we like to lead by example. So, coaches, how many days a week do you work out?
It's a good question. It varies on recovery and what we're lifting towards, but usually I'll lift from anywhere from 5 to 6 days a week.
For me, I'm kind of in that like 4 days a week, just because on the weekends I don't really get it in. Gotta spend time with the family, but I try to get at least 4 days a week with each part of the body, and maybe some football on the weekends.
I work out at least 6. I don't need to, but usually it's because I'm bored and have OCD and need to hit all my muscles twice a week. But sometimes 7 if it's football season.
For me, I'm working out somewhere between 2 times a week and 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So that's ever since I've had my little boy Dawson. The consistency has been the struggle for me, but I would like to say that on a good week, I'm lifting somewhere between 4 to 5 times a week.
All right, boys. So we all love protein.
It's a big answer.
Because we're bros, okay? And bros love protein. So, what's your favorite source of protein?
Favorite source? Well, I gotta go with the tried and true, my red meat. I'm a big red meat eater. If I'm on prep, I'm usually eating just chicken and like fish. But right now, because it's off season, I like to get all the fatty red meat. So that's what I go to, ribeye and New York's.
Man, I'm gonna have to agree. I love my red meat,
Yeah.
but I think my most enjoyed meat is the red meat, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, summer's only a couple months away. I'm trying to get back on those macros. No dad bod around here, so I have to go with good old-fashioned chicken because it's where you get the best protein for the least amount of calories and get the best bang for your buck. So I'm gonna say that the coach in me says chicken. The bad side of me says give me that red meat, give me that steak.
Yes, sir. You cannot say legendary target.
All right, I'm gonna go for complete protein. I'm gonna go with dairy because it's a complete protein, so that means you don't need to like mix it with other foods. So there was a while where I didn't eat meat, so I had to combine different foods to complete proteins. But with dairy, it's in so much stuff that I eat that when I do eat something that has a lot of protein in it with dairy, I don't have to worry about matching those amino acids. And I love Legendary Pastry Pop-Tarts. I see you guys. They sponsor me. And those have dairy in them, 20 grams of protein. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with dairy.
Shout out Tasty Pastries.
And for myself, yeah, tasty pastries are amazing. If I don't care what I'm eating, for sure red meat, ribeyes, any kind of red meat. But if I do care what I eat, it's pretty much chicken. I'm eating chicken like all the time. Nuggets, just bare chicken nuggets. They're basically Chick-fil-A nuggets. So
Those are
I
fire.
eat those a lot, and they're pretty good macros.
Since we're plugging all of our favorites, Tasty Pastries,
gosh.
we got Just Bear. I'm gonna have to go Fairlife Protein Shake. That's another
Can't go
one.
wrong with Fairlife.
Dairy.
Dairy,
And,
dairy.
I love Built Puff Bars because I'm addicted to candy. So I'm a fat kid.
It's just this advertisement.
All right.
For only
Go support your.
For only
your local
$19.95, I can get a box of 10 to your doorstep.
But wait, there's more. Buy now and get the second box half off.
Just turn into an infomercial.
Next question. An athlete walks up to you and says, I want to get faster. What's the first thing I should do?
That's interesting.
There's no
Yeah.
right answer. This is in your coaching opinion. If an athlete's wanting to get faster and they're not coming to necessarily work out with you, they're just like, hey coach, what's something I can do on my own? What's something I can add into my regimen to get faster?
Well, personally, I hear this a lot. You get it from a lot of high school athletes, especially football guys that they do all this weight room stuff. Maybe they're doing some field work, but they don't really know what to do. And my first question to them is, well, are you consistently sprinting at 100%? I'm not talking about, going through the motions of your practice or even 7-on-7 stuff. Are you lining up, okay, telling yourself you're gonna go 100% effort and actually trying to get faster? And then from there you can go on to break it down and get with a coach and break down the mechanics of it, but you have to be consistently running as hard as you possibly can. That's the number one thing I tell kids.
I would say learn how to use your arms when you run and when you sprint, because when I really learned how to use my arms, I increased my speed drastically. So I would tell kids, like as a simple answer, learn how to use your arms with your legs, and once they work together, you can increase your speed exponentially.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback up what Connor said, just like if you're not sprinting, if you're not going 100%, you're not going to get faster. But another question I would ask them is like, where do you want to get faster? Are you not fast straight line speed? Are you like slow off the line? Like, do you do a sport where you need to be laterally quick? Like, where your issue is? Like, where are you trying to get faster? Because then we can move on from there. It's like, hey, I'm good straight line, but I'm having a really hard time getting off the line or whatever it is. It's like, okay, we can go. You got to work on your power. You got to work on your short burst, your explosion out, and you got to keep that repeating over and over again.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Trying to dive a little deeper and figure out what areas need to get better. Is it top speed?
Yeah.
Is it acceleration? So are we going more resistance training to help with that acceleration and that start, or are we doing maxed all-out effort sprints like Connor was saying, where you're trying to work on that top speed and that top level of burst and acceleration? So, but at the end of the day, the biggest thing I could say is conditioning is not speed training.
No.
A lot of people go out and they just want to run. Oh, I got to put in 2 miles a day. I need to get faster. And it's like, no, conditioning is not speed training. Slow it down, recover, and go 100% whatever you're doing, and you're going to get faster.
Right. And all this is sport dependent too. I mean, obviously, if you're a soccer player, your intervals between sprints are going to be a little bit faster. But yeah, DT hit it right on the head. You can't just go out and run the laps and expect to get faster. You have to run full speed.
You don't have to separate the two either. It's like conditioning is not speed training, but speed training is conditioning.
Yes.
So if you're speed training, you're going to get conditioned from it.
Yeah.
100%.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah.
Clip that and post it right there. I like that one.
All right, let's go a little bit more fun. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Any superpower at all?
No restrictions.
No restrictions.
Bro, I'm controlling space and time. That's it.
Wow.
It's a wrap.
Just got deep.
It's pretty much omniscient. I can stop time.
What are you,
I
Jesus?
can go forward and backwards. If I can bend time, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want.
You're either Doctor Strange
Bro,
or
you
Jesus,
said- I said
or
any
Jesus
restrictions.
straight up. I don't know
Any
which
restrictions.
superhero that is, but all right, I like
I've been waiting for this question my whole life.
Yeah.
I would manipulate matter,
Yeah.
kind of like
what I
Magneto,
do. Basically.
but all matter, so I could obliterate any threat and just have complete power and control the earth.
What is going on here?
Hey,
I made a
Are there
mistake.
any
I made a
restrictions?
mistake. I shouldn't have said no restrictions.
You should
That's
have
my-
said-
you're right.
You
I
have
should
to
have said
say
you have to pick
current
a superhero's superpower.
Oh,
and we did.
okay.
I'm thinking like super strength, super speed, invisibility.
I asked.
I want to control.
I asked.
Are you gonna be basic or are you gonna go hard right here? What's your answer?
Imagine being able to travel through time whenever you want to. Honestly, I would probably say if I'm going after one of my favorite characters, I do love the Flash, so I'd probably just pick like super insane speed. That'd be dope.
I just feel like none of my answers are going to be good enough anymore. I feel like I officially have lost. It doesn't even matter anymore.
I haven't got the answer, so I'll base my answer off of your answer. Make you not.
I mean,
I know what I would do. I would be Dark Phoenix and manipulate all matter. So I could
we work with a bunch.
I
of
would be
nerds.
Doctor
Yeah.
Strange.
Bunch of nerds.
I mean, I guess. They're all boring.
Stay 29
They're all
forever.
boring. I'm just gonna say super strength at this point because nothing's cool.
Fair enough.
I feel like
super strength.
I'm gonna go.
Guess what? I'm gonna freeze you.
I'm gonna go with more of a like X-Men Nightcrawler and just
Yes.
teleportation. Like I kind of like the idea of just like teleporting wherever I want. I know it's more of a
except for you
convenience
can't go
factor.
through matter because Ben's controlling matter.
Yeah.
So now it's just.
I guess that doesn't matter.
Next question. Next question. All right, a big topic here. Our next question: why is food and what athletes eat so important for athletic performance?
Well, fats, proteins, and carbs are all equally important. I mean, I like protein better, but they're all equally important. Carbs pretty much give you energy. Fat gives you brain power, and protein synthesizes muscle. So it's like you need all three. And I eat every hour or 2 hours, and I think the biggest thing for athletes is like they have to find out a time, like in school, before school, after school, when to eat. Because a lot of my kids that I train, they'll eat like 2 or 3 times a day. And I try to get them to eat like 5 or 6 times a day, because you want to treat your body like a machine. Like, you want to keep feeding the machine. You want to keep it going. You don't drive a nice car with no oil or without an oil change. So you want to just keep your metabolism going. That's how you actually burn fat and build muscle, is you continue to eat, and your body's like, oh, more food, oh, more food. So it just keeps running and running. If you only eat a couple times a day, or like you eat in the morning, have a big break, and then eat dinner, your body wants to hold on to that food as fat, because it's saying, oh man, this is the only food I'm going to be getting for the next 6 hours, and the body's used to that, so it's going to store it as fat. You want to keep that burn going for as long as you can.
I think to add on Ben, you hit on a couple of good points of talking about, like, because a lot of times, like, athletes, they don't always know, like, either like how much to be eating in a certain meal, when to be eating it. So I think doing some research on like the timing of your meals and when you can get it in, that's great and all, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you're getting all those macronutrients by the end of the day. So, you know, just skipping because, oh, you didn't get to it earlier in the day isn't an excuse not to make it up. Because we ask so much of athletes nowadays, whether it's academics or other things they have going on, it can be really difficult to get a lot of food in. And then we as coaches, we see that a lot. Like, we've seen the look when they walk through the door and they're not fully, you know, fueled up. We can tell right away. So one of my biggest recommendations I always give to my clients is always have some type of good snack on hand. So having something on hand, I know this, like, for me, if I'm in the gym and all of a sudden I freak out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am starving. I will pull out a banana and just eat it in the gym.
Yeah, me too.
Or, you know, whatever it is. Always have something on you as like an emergency food, as like a go-to food. That'd be my number one piece of advice.
Because if you feel like if you don't have energy, your body feels the same way.
Oh, yeah.
And like, if a kid walks in the door and he doesn't eat breakfast, I'm like, next time you do that, we're not even gonna train. Because what's the point? Like, you're wasting both of our times.
Yep.
So like Connor said, like, if I'm in the gym and I feel hungry, I whip out a legendary pastry Pop-Tart and I eat it right there. Bananas too. Bananas are actually a perfect,
Yeah.
you know, but 100%. You gotta fuel that body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just kind of piggyback one more time. Just like, it's a delicate balance, because you eat too much, that's not good. If you don't eat enough, that's not good either. So if and it depends on what you're trying to do as an athlete. Are you trying to get bigger? Are you trying to get stronger? Okay, we got to be eating. There's constantly kids that come into us that are like, Coach, I'm eating, but I'm not putting on weight and all this stuff. I'm like, how much are you eating in a day? It's like, oh, it's like, you know, 2,800 calories. I'm like, dude, that's not enough. Your metabolism is way too fast. So you got to bump those numbers up. It's got to become a job. A job. I mean, I had my biggest example is my brother-in-law played football, and he sits right now out of football, pretty lean, but doesn't work super hard at it, and he's 160 pounds. Well, during season, he's 190 pounds. And I used to walk in on that kid constantly eating, and then he'd have to like take a breath and eat some more, because when you're skinny and have a fast metabolism, you gotta eat and eat and eat and eat. So, and it goes the other way if you're trying to cut. It's like, you can't eat so much if you're trying to cut. You gotta find that balance.
Yeah, and I think the most difficult part of this question for athletes in today's world with social media is everything online, TikTok, Instagram, is about aesthetics and bodybuilding. And we just have to understand the difference between bodybuilding and performance training.
Right.
So like Ben was saying, we gotta make sure you have your fats, your carbs, and your protein. You can't, shy away from carbs because I'm trying to get lean. Like, no, that's not how it works. As athletes, we're trying to perform, and we got to put the best fuel in our body to perform cognitively, that our brain is firing and we can react quickly with our carbs, so that we have enough energy to be explosive and max effort sprint, and then our proteins so that our body can heal, recover, and replenish. So as athletes, understanding that what you see on social media, what you see online about the guys in the gym and bodybuilding is not directed towards you. So I love this conversation, because more and more athletes and kids need to see that there's a different style of eating for athletes and performance than there is for bodybuilding and aesthetics.
Definitely.
100%.
Oh, yeah. And if you don't eat all of your macros, especially like your fats, like a lot of people will try to cut out fats, like, you're not going to produce the hormones. Like, you're not going to produce your HGH or testosterone. So like, you don't want to do that at an early age. You want to replenish yourself as often as possible with all 3 of the macros.
In your opinion, what is the biggest or most common mistake most high school athletes make when it comes to training or recovery?
Sleep. Some of y'all think they don't need to sleep. Okay, you have to sleep. Okay, the only time your body is recovering and protein synthesis and breaking down, okay? When you go train, you break your body down, okay? When you sleep, you are repairing, okay? A lot of guys and girls, okay, especially athletes, we have so much going on with academics that we put sleep on the back burner. That should be the last thing that we're putting on the back burner. If you're getting pushed too hard, do not pull back sleep, okay? We have to get it in. And we all struggle with this, okay? Especially the coaches, we got crazy lives, but we all notice it. Like, all of us are different when we're on a lack of sleep. And I think right now, just with like the fast pace of high school sports and younger sports, like with how competitive it is, it's expected that you're supposed to get up at 5 a.m. and go work hard. Well, if you're not fully recovered, you're not going to be able to, and then you're going to get diminished returns. So number one for me is sleep.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Connor. Sleep. If you're not in an anabolic state, then you're just not gonna. You're gonna wake up and your whole day is a waste. Like you can lift as much as you want, you can eat as much as you want, but if you do not get adequate sleep, your body's just gonna be in a catabolic state for the whole day, and you're just gonna have to wait for the next day to actually be productive. It's the most important thing for me with my kids too.
Yeah, so for me, I think they hit sleep on the head. I think that's for all high school athletes. And I remember being in high school, you know, you're up till 3 a.m., Snapchatting, tic-tacking, you know what I mean? You're on all the different,
when I was in high school.
all the different social medias. What I tell my athletes is, hey, that boy or that girl, they'll be there tomorrow, all right? Stop texting them at 2 a.m., get yourself some sleep.
No 2 a.m. FaceTimes, you don't know the drill.
You gotta take care of your body and prioritize it.
Yes.
I'm gonna curve a little bit though and go a different direction since we've all talked about sleep already. From my personal experience, the biggest thing that I've noticed in high school athletes' training regimen is that they begin to overemphasize and focus too much solely on the weight room as athletes specifically. We work with so many kids, 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman year. All of a sudden, sophomore year, they hit like 15, boom, they disappear their sophomore year, they disappear their junior year. And then I get a message, senior year, coach, I'm trying to play at the next level, but I gotta get faster. And it's like, well, where have you been for your 10th and 11th grade years of high school? Where were you at from 15 to 17? And so many athletes, because they start liking girls, they start liking boys, they start focusing on TikTok, social media, and all of a sudden they're in the gym, they're pumping iron. And I'm not saying strength is not important, because strength is a huge part of speed. But if you're only focusing on getting bigger and getting stronger, and then what happens? You get tighter, you develop slow twitch muscle fibers, right? You start training your body to move slow and to push heavy weight instead of moving fast and move quickly. So I would say the biggest mistake is that athletes take this like 1.5 to 2 year gap where they are only lifting in the weight room and only putting on size, and then they come back and they're tight, they're stiff, and they're slow, and they want to get faster. There's nothing wrong with lifting. Lift, but make sure that your lifting is enhancing your performance on the field. Make sure that you don't stop your field training. Make sure you don't stop your speed and agility, your plyometric work. Supplement. Lifting is a part of the complete athlete. Speed training is a part of the complete athlete. So, you know, one jar being full isn't enough. You have to fill up all 3 jars. You know, you gotta sleep, you gotta recover, you gotta weight train, you gotta speed train. You gotta put it all together to be the complete athlete. I think high school athletes really miss that, for there's like a 2 year gap where they just kind of miss that train a little bit. So that would be my biggest thing I would say to you.
Yeah, and all of what was said is really good. I really like don't only focus on the weight room, just consistency in both trainings. I don't think it's the biggest, but it's a big one. I think is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. If you are a stud athlete and you train hard, but you surround yourself with people that don't want to get in the gym and don't want to train hard, they are more likely to rub off on you than you are to rub off on them.
Yes.
So make sure you surround yourself with people that are trying to get in the gym, trying to get training, trying to get better, and then that'll grow and spread, and you know you can create accountability throughout your teams, right? So we were saying the other day, you know, bad teams have no accountability, good teams have coach accountability, and great teams have player accountability, and I think that goes along with your friend groups. And
100%.
If you're not accountable to each other and trying to make each other better in whatever sport it is, I think that's a huge mistake of not surrounding yourself with those like-minded people and working hard, recovering hard, training hard, everything together.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's good. That is a really good addition. It is.
So now we talked about the most common training and recovery mistakes of high school athletes. So let's take it down a notch. Answer will be similar but a little different when we talk about our youth athletes, meaning like 12, 13 and under. Athletes are training at crazy rates, but we also know that the younger the athlete, you know, they don't need to stretch as much as those muscle-bound high school athletes are. You know, recovery's a little bit easier. Warm-ups don't take as much for the younger little kids, right?
Yeah.
So what do you guys feel like is the biggest mistake, or what do you feel like youth athletes need to focus on the most when it comes to their training and recovery?
I think that the little ones, they have such crazy schedules. Like their schedules are like, go to school, then you have basketball, then you have dynamic training, then you have this, then you have this. Like I see a lot of the little kids and I get worried that they're gonna get burned out because they have so much stuff going on. Like I have some kids playing like 2-3 sports, plus they have this training, plus they're training somewhere else on the side, you know, plus they're, you know, making videos in their backyard. It's just, I think the little kids, they should have some time to play and just like be kids, because a lot of the times they're pushed to where their schedules are even more busy than mine. My schedule is crazy. So I'm like, wow, it's gonna set them up for success in life, but you gotta let the kids be kids sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say adding on that of like finding the balance with youth athletes is really important. But I'd say overall, what I experience is, and it depends, right? Like you have some younger kids that are naturally a little bit more focused and they really want to be here, they really want to put in the effort, they know what they're doing, they want to get better. And then you have other kids who maybe they're pushed to be here a little bit more. And I think for those kids, getting them to not compare themselves to the other type of athletes that they may be around. You know, everyone's going to be at a different level, everyone's starting at a different spot, but no matter where you're at, you can progress and you can get better from where you are. So yeah, just reminding them that, you know, what they're doing, they're on the right path, they just have to keep going.
Yeah, I think being able to get into a mindset, and this is hard for little kids, but I try to explain this all the time, is that there's no growth without some sort of pain. Like growth without pain is almost non-existent, because if you look at it, they're growing, you have growing pains, right? Your legs start to hurt because you're getting a little bit taller. Growth and pain. Emotionally, if you go through something hard, most of the time it makes you better. You grow as a person, you start growing up a little bit, you're able to handle those situations a little bit better, little pain, little growth. And the same thing with training. You know, you go through this training and yeah, it's gonna hurt. Your muscles are tearing and then repairing themselves. So again, growth and pain. So there's no growth without pain, and just being able to get into that mindset of knowing that you're going to grow, but there's gonna be a little pain behind it, but it's gonna be better at the end of the day. Right. So I like explaining that to some of the kids and bringing that analogy in there that they're gonna have to go through hard things and it's gonna make them better. And also recognizing that where we're at right now at dynamic training this is not your game. This is not even your practice. This is just somewhere where you go to get better. And don't be so hard on yourself if you mess up a drill, because we're not in a game. It doesn't matter if you mess up right now. I'm just gonna coach you on it, and then we're gonna get better next time. Don't worry so much about doing something perfect. It just matters that you're in here training and working hard and learning the new techniques.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that speed is everything, and everyone knows that, and that's talked about so much. So these young kids think speed means do everything as fast as humanly possible. Right? They're like, do this drill. They're just Tasmanian devil all over the place, you know? And it's like, I say it again and again and again. Control is first, speed is second. Like, you're 10 years old, little Jimmy, you got time to get faster. Like, but if we don't learn what we're doing, we don't master the basics, we don't learn how to properly have the right mechanics, then we're not setting that proper foundation to set them up for success as they get older and older. So like Spence was saying, you know, in here at Dynamic Training, we are not your sport coaches. We are not gonna penalize you for doing something wrong. We want you to slow it down, we want you to do it right. And once you have the proper form, mechanics, technique, then we start leveling it up and getting faster and faster, because, you know, we see our older athletes all the time coming in and we're like, who taught you, why don't you know how to run opposite arm, opposite leg? You know, like something really basic. Yeah. And it's like, well, they do stuff really fast, but they're not being efficient. And like, how much faster could we actually be if we did things right? How much safer could we be and not actually put ourselves in harm's way of getting an injury if we had the right technique and form? So control is first, speed is second.
How old were you guys when you guys first started weight training, and how young is a good age to start weight training?
Good question. I didn't actually start really taking weight training seriously until I was about 13 or 14. You know, my dad showed me a few basics of like dumbbell stuff when I was younger, like 12, but not seriously weightlifting until in high school. And honestly, I don't think there's really an age that's too young. It all depends on what you're doing. So for example, you could have a kid do resistance training with really, really light dumbbells, or going through the motions of lifting with a PVC pipe. Everything can be broken down so they can get the form of it, but not actually worry about so much weight-bearing stuff. Like little kids, they don't really need anything, 11 and under, they don't need real heavy weight on them to get a great exercise, doing the same form that you would if you had weight, just without it. You can do a lot of stuff that way. So I think, and then obviously, especially for boys, it does depend on, how they're developing and, when they develop. So that plays a big role into it too. But I wouldn't say there's a direct, like, perfect age of when you should start or not. It just all depends on the athlete.
I started lifting pretty much just doing my biceps in high school. The football team would be lifting and I would just be doing biceps, and I used to get kicked out of the weight room because I wouldn't squat or bench press because all I cared about was my biceps. I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, and there was a stigma back then for kids lifting. It was like, if you lift, it'll stunt your growth. And so I waited until I was 5'8", and I lifted and I never grew again, which is nice. But that's complete trash. And it's actually shown that if kids learn the movements, like the basic squat, the hip hinge, and they do get started lifting early, even as early as 7 or 8, doing the movements, doing lightweight, it actually it densifies their bones. It makes their bones thicker. It'll help them in the long run. So a lot of science is coming out that's showing that the earlier you are, the earlier you get introduced to the weight room, the better set up you're going to be as an athlete. And I know some little beasts who are 7, 8 years old and they're already starting. Like Connor said, you don't need to start with heavy weight or even any weight at all, but to understand the movements, to understand what a hip hinge is or a squat or how to properly use your quads, it's super important. So I wish I started earlier. I'm glad I'm able to help these kids start earlier.
I started getting in the weight room when I was like 11 or 12 years old. My dad, who still works out with me all the time now, so I had an awesome workout partner and coach and trainer from a young age. He used to embarrass me a little bit. We'd go to Cal Fit, he'd put a raw egg on my chest, and I'd have to bench press and touch the bar on the egg. Jeez. And I don't know if you know, but being 12 and breaking an egg on your chest in the middle of a public gym is probably the most embarrassing thing that I've ever experienced. So it taught me how to control the bar on the way down. So he made his point there.
That's why you shake so much?
Yeah, that's probably why he shakes I don't want to crack the egg. But I'm just like you guys, I'm gonna move away from the science side of it, but I think like that 12 age range around there is a good place to start for one main reason, and that's once boys specifically get to like 13, 14, 15, ego lifting starts to kick in, where they want to lift with their friends, they want to go to the gym, they want to see how much weight what's their max bench. And so it's like, okay, at that point, it's really hard to build a foundation and to teach them proper lifting because all they care about is putting up crazy weight. Right. And parents are no longer going to the gym with their kids all the time. So I think being 11, 12, 13 in that range, to learn the proper movements and to learn how to actually do things right and have good form is huge, because it's setting the foundation up to where now when you're 14, now you're just adding load. Now you're just putting on a little bit more weight, a little bit more to actually gain strength and size, instead of having to worry about how's your form. Are you going to hurt yourself trying to max bench for the first time at 14 years old? So I think 11 to 13 is a great sweet spot to start lifting and to learn the fundamentals and to learn the movement patterns that you need to set yourself up for success.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, I got a really late start. I mean, I don't think I started lifting until I was like 17, like closer to 18. I played sports, but in high school I was 5 foot as a freshman, 5'1" as a sophomore, and so I wasn't playing football or anything like that. So I didn't get in those weight training classes or anything like that. But I started rock climbing first, and then I got into the gym after that. And so I was around 17, 18 when I first started lifting, and so then really started lifting super heavy as soon as I met DT. But other than that, it was just kind of form stuff I could do on my own. I didn't really have a whole lot of like gym buddies that I could go to the gym with. So I got a later start, but that's all right. You can start whenever you want. As far as age, I think, like they said, not a perfect age anywhere, but I think personally, if you can't do a push-up, a strict regular push-up, we gotta work on that first before we can even get in the weight room. If you can't push your own weight around, if you can't do a proper squat with no weight, I don't think we should even be in the weight room. Let's do all those other things outside first, and then go from there, and then we can get in the weight room. But I think that's very important to be able to have control of your own body with body weight movements before you try to pick up anything else or do anything else with that. But form. If you can do that, if you're young and you can do a regular push-up, you can do a good squat, everything should be form until you get about that 11 or 12 range, and then you can start adding a little bit of weight at a time.
All right, guys, we're on that last question of the day right here. Okay, last one. The question is, why is speed and agility training / athletic performance training more important now for athletes than ever before?
Well, it's more important because a lot more people are doing it. I mean, we see every year, PRs get lower in track, athletes get better in every sport, so it's kind of it's more expected to work on things outside of just your sport, which I think is super important. I know, growing up, it was very much of work on your craft, like sports specific, like that's all of what training was. And now pulling back from it and being more of an actual speed and agility coach, seeing the benefits that athletes get out of being a little less specific with their sport, but overall highlighting the importance of overall speed, I think makes a tremendous improvement in their on-field play.
And also there are way more humans now. There are so many people. Like where we're at used to all be fields, like 20 years ago, you know what I mean? And now this place is insanely populated. Roseville has a population of like 140, 160,000 people. And sports is really, especially with social media and everything, like everybody's seeing that you need extra training. Like you can't just show up to a sport and be one of the best players. Like you do need extra training, and that's all over the place, and it's in kids' faces. So with the high population, tons of kids, like the high schools have thousands of kids in them around here, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of competition, and that's why you do need something to stand out.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we get stuck on one sport, and now sports are year round. Almost every sport is year round, but what happens with that is kids get burnt out. And I think if you continue to do speed and agility and work kind of how we work and do plyos, it'll make you just an overall athlete. And if you decide you got burnt out on one sport, you can move to the other with a little bit easier transition. You just have to learn the sport itself. You don't have to worry about your mechanics or anything like that. You can jump into a new sport. All you got to do is learn it. But if you have the athletic training that we do, that speed and agility, it applies to all sports. It applies to baseball, basketball, football, soccer, rugby, all the different kinds of sports. It translates. So just being able to be flexible in what you do, or if you're a multi-sport athlete, that way you can perform at a high level at any sport that you play.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the easy statement is speed is everything. When it comes to football, everyone's airing it out, right? It's all about who's got the fastest guys, the most lethal weapons on the outsides. There's no more of those put your hand in the dirt, bars down the middle, fullback, right? There's not as much smash mouth in football. In basketball, we don't have the Shaquille O'Neals in the post nearly as much. We got 7-footers on the outside shooting 3-pointers and driving to the hole. So I feel like speed has really taken over all sports worldwide, where everyone is putting more and more emphasis on your ability to be explosive and accelerate. So I think speed is more important now than it was 5-10 years ago in sports, even at the professional and the youth levels. But then secondly, like Spence was saying, is more and more athletes at 8 years old are one sport athletes.
Yeah.
They're sport specific at 10, which I think is mind blowing.
Yeah.
I think that athletes need to be playing multiple sports, but if you're not going to play multiple sports, you have to do human performance, athletic performance training to balance out yourself, so that you're not just overdeveloping and overtraining one muscle group and underdeveloping and undertraining another muscle group, right? So a lot of it is, how can we keep our athletes healthy? A soccer player or a volleyball player is like, coach, why do I need a back pedal? Well, there's so many benefits for your knee health and your overall health and strength as an athlete in being coordinated to backpedal. So training out of your comfort zone and not just doing the same movements all the time is going to help us become better, healthier, longer lasting athletes.
Definitely. Speed is king, baby. Speed is king. Good box talk, guys.
That's our episode 1 of Box Talk.
Episode 1, done.